Discover the incredible journey, your life as the real Ragnar Lothbrok. A heartwarming transformation awaits. In the heart of Maplewood, Ohio, the sun barely kissed the horizon when Jake Thompson pulled himself from sleep. The air was cool and still, yet his two children were like firecrackers, bursting with energy long before dawn. As a mechanic, Jake was no stranger to hard work, but it was the laughter of his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, and 10-year-old son, Max, that made his heart swell with pride. Every day, his hands were stained with grease, and his body ached from labor that began long before the sun rose. But he held tight to the wise words of his father, a Vietnam veteran who had taught him the values of integrity and resilience. Jake couldn't afford to falter, his children depended on him. Their home was modest, yet once filled with joy and hope. Now, a thick veil of worry hung over it, shadowing even the brightest moments. Maplewood's lifeblood, the factory, had been echoing with uncertainty. Tensions buzzed like electricity as rumors of layoffs spread. Friends and neighbors whispered, faces drawn tight with fear. Jake found his thoughts creeping back to Caleb, an old rival who now ran a tech venture that seemed to thrive off other people's misery. He relished in their misfortunes, a grin creeping across his face every time he saw Jake frown in despair. This wasn't just about him, it was about his entire community's livelihood. Then came the night Jake discovered a dark plot during a late-night search online. A hidden deal was unearthed, a wealthy firm poised to strip the factory, leaving families like his to drown in despair. Rage bubbled within him, flaring and pushing aside the fear clinging to his chest. With every fiber of his being, he knew he wouldn't remain silent. How could one man, a simple mechanic, rally a town against greed? At dinner, the weight of his silence was shattered. "Dad," Lily's voice quivered, "are we going to lose our house?" That innocent question struck like lightning, an overwhelming flood of emotion tearing through Jake. Anger mixed with determination ignited a fire within him. His children needed him to pour every ounce of strength into the fight ahead. As he galloped through the days that followed, the community galvanized. They began organizing a protest, hoping to reclaim their dignity. Jake stood at the front, with Max and Lily clutching his hands tightly. The once familiar voices of laughter now shared space with shouts of frustration and anxiety. He climbed the podium for the first time ever, and the crowd around him felt electric, their collective hope mingled with fear. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. As Jake gazed at the anxious faces before him, a silence enveloped the crowd. Suddenly, a rival's car pulled up, the flash of a camera slicing through the moment. Judgment formed, uncertain and heavy. Would the fire ignited in their hearts burn strong enough to see them through? In that charged atmosphere, Jake knew the struggle before them was more than personal now. It was a struggle tinged with desperation but illuminated by hope. Would they rise together against the shadow threatening to eclipse their lives? The stakes were higher than ever, leaving Jake's heart pounding with the realization of both their potential and the danger lurking before them. Jake stood there, a wave of uncertainty crashing down on him. Each second felt like an eternity as he scanned the crowd, searching for encouragement in their eyes. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in love for his children and the community that had nurtured him from boyhood to fatherhood. Holding on to that connection, he raised his arms, quieting the murmurs with a gentle but firm presence. "Everyone," he began, his voice steady, surging with the strength he didn't know he possessed. "We're not asking for much. Just for the chance to keep our home, our jobs, our lives together." The crowd responded with cheers, but faint doubts lingered, snatching at the edges of their unity. "Would it be enough?" With a rush of adrenaline, he continued. "These men and women behind me. They work hard every single day. They deserve to be heard. Our families deserve to be heard. The chant of together. Together. Reverberated through the air like a familiar song, lifting spirits, weaving a tight fabric of solidarity. Jake felt hope pulsing through him. Maybe, just maybe, they were all in this together, but just as the high spirits seemed indomitable, the sharp clicks of cameras intruded once more. Caleb stepped out of his car with a swagger that could only be described as arrogant. He wore a smug smile, the kind that twisted Jake's gut. The crowd's energy faltered momentarily, uncertainty creeping back into the faces once radiating determination. "Look at this," Caleb smirked, addressing the crowd as if he owned every ounce of despair within it. "You think you can fight against progress? You're just making it harder on yourselves. These protests pathetic." The atmosphere thickened with tension. Jake's heart raced, and the weight of the moment felt unbearable. Anger sparked inside him, igniting the fire he was sure he had calmed. He stepped forward, fighting to keep his voice from shaking. "You don't know what it means to be part of this town. To live here and raise your family here." The crowd began to shout back, their words blending into a symphony of defiance. The dissonance filled the space alongside Caleb's sneering remarks. But Jake could see hesitant faces on the outskirts trying to muster their courage. He turned toward them, linking eyes with a local teacher, someone who had inspired so many young minds. "Take courage," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We've survived worse than this. Together, we've built a life here. Let us show them we have the heart to change our fate." A ripple of applause spread through the crowd. Suddenly, hands were raised high, fists clenched tight. Jake felt an outburst of energy. With every shout, every cheer, the power within them seemed to swell. But then, purely unexpected, the crowd erupted into cheers, and in the chaos, Jake locked onto one person, Lily, eyes wide, her little frame wobbling with excitement. She wore a handmade sign saying "Fight for our home." Watching her, something inside Jake shifted. This wasn't just about jobs or a factory anymore. This was about the very foundation of their lives, their future. As the minutes ticked by, the sun began to dip below the horizon. The crowd's voices echoed like a heartbeat, growing louder, more determined. Caleb recoiled amidst the rise of fervor, people solidifying and standing strong against him. But just then, a figure emerged from the shadowy edge of the crowd. A man Jake recognized all too well, one with ties to the very company threatening their livelihood. Should they trust him, or was this a dangerous new twist that would threaten everything they've fought for? Shivers raced down Jake's spine. He had never felt more vulnerable yet powerful at the same time. Would he be able to face whatever news was lurking in that man's approach? The tension escalated. He could feel the moment teetering on the edge of chaos or hope. What was coming next? Jake's breath caught in his throat as the man stepped closer, his stature commanding yet filled with an unsettling air. The murmurs in the crowd softened to hushed whispers, every eye was on him, including Caleb's, who wore a twisted smile, looking as if he'd just been handed a trump card. "Mr. Harrington," the newcomer said, extending a hand, his voice smooth but edged with something that felt like a warning hidden beneath his words. Jake hesitated, grappling with the notion of accepting a gesture from someone who could easily mean trouble. "Do you have something to say?" Jake managed to voice, even as his heart thudded like a pounding drum within his chest. "Yes," the man replied, lowering his hand, a spark of understanding glinting in his gaze. "I know things are tense, and I'm not here to exacerbate that. My name's Mitchell. I represent local investors who believe in this community." A ripple of skepticism dashed through the crowd. Jake felt a flicker of hope as well as the familiar grips of uncertainty. What would this mean? The very thought of outsiders investors in this case always stirred wariness. "You want to help us?" Someone shouted from the back, clearly filled with doubt. The crowd murmured in agreement, the energy shifting, uncertainty filling the air like a fog. "I want to listen," Mitchell responded, unwavering. "What happened in this town, how families have thrived and survived, matters. It's not just about profits. We believe in the strength that comes from community. You've built something meaningful, and that's worth fighting for. Jake's heart raced with the implications. Was it possible? Was this man genuinely interested in their plight, or was it all a cop-out to shield corporate greed? The hope wavered between visions of despair and promise. People shifted, awaiting Jake's reaction. What do you want from us? Jake's voice broke through the murmurs, stronger now. It felt like they were teetering on the brink of engagement. Just a chance for dialogue, Mitch said, spreading his hands. To hear your stories. To understand your needs. We are not here to take. We want to invest in the community, revitalize what has been lost. He paused, scanning the crowd for eyes that would meet his, searching for hearts that might still hold on to that sense of unity. Jake's gaze drifted to his children, Lily, still clutching her sign with fierce determination, and the younger ones huddled close to their mother. That sense of family pulled at him, and he felt every fiber of their struggle to stay afloat in turbulent waters. Together we can make a difference, Jake thought. Their fight had ignited something far deeper than the nuances of politics and economics. It had tapped into the lifeblood of their existence. But can we trust you? I wouldn't ask you to, Mitchell replied, a glimmer of honesty in his eyes. But I'm here. Open to dialogue, to understanding. If you're willing, let us start there. The crowd simmered with contemplation. Hope hung thick in the air, but so did trepidation. Would they risk it all on the words of a stranger? Jake wrestled with the weight of decision, scanning the faces that surrounded him, friends, neighbors, fellow fathers and mothers who understood his fears and hopes. He could feel the energy shifting, and a voice of clarity rose within him, grounding him. We need to decide who we are and who we want to be moving forward, Jake said, lifting his chin. If we want change, let us talk. The crowd erupted into applause, the tidal wave of emotion now flowing unrestrained. Jake could sense a profound shift, as moments of doubt gave way to possibility. Yet amid the cheers lay unspoken worries. Was this the beginning of a solution or another deception? As dusk settled around them, Jake's heart pulsated with unease and hope intertwined. What would come from this newfound conversation? Could it lead them closer to salvation, or deep into a mire of false promises? In the distance, the sunset painted a fiery sky, yet shadows loomed ahead. He wondered, could they really forge a plan from the ashes of despair, or was this merely the calm before the storm? Jake stood on the precipice of change, engulfed in a sea of emotions. The weight of his neighbors' expectant stares pressed against him. He felt their hopes, their fears, and their collective yearning for something, anything that could pull them out of the dark uncertainty. All right, let us do this, he asserted, his voice steadying despite the tremor of doubt lurking within. He motioned for Mitchell to step forward. The crowd quieted, intrigued and perhaps a touch apprehensive. Let us hear what you have to offer. Mitchell smiled, nodding appreciatively. Thank you, Jake. That's a start, he said. I can assure you, our intentions are clean. We're looking at investing in businesses that have roots in the community, and we want to know where those roots can grow deeper. Caleb, arms crossed, still held on to his skepticism like a shield. And how do we know you won't just come in, take what you want, and leave us with nothing? I understand why that question is on your mind, Caleb, Mitchell replied, his tone remaining calm. But I'm here to build partnerships. We want to work alongside you. We're not just investing money, we're investing in the dreams you've created here. Lily tugged at Jake's arm, her young brow furrowed with concern. Daddy, is he really going to help us? Or does he just want our town? Jake knelt beside her, meeting her innocent gaze with open sincerity. I don't know yet, sweetheart. But we're not just going to rush into anything. We'll listen, and we'll be smart about it. Just like we always do. The crowd reacted, a mixture of murmurs and nods rippling through them. People were starting to lean in, curiosity overcoming doubt. Jake felt the pulse of hope quickening. We'll tell you our stories, our struggles," he said, instilling warmth in his voice, "but we expect transparency in return." Mitchell's eyes brightened. "I wouldn't want it any other way. The first step is understanding how everything is tied together. Your businesses, your challenges, all of it matters. Let us set a meeting, gather some input, and really get into the heart of this." "Set a meeting?" Caleb scoffed, skepticism simmering beneath his words. "You think we're just going to open our doors after one conversation?" "Nothing good ever came from staying silent," Jake interjected, his voice firm. "We owe it to ourselves to explore this, Caleb. How often do we get a chance to speak to someone who wants to listen? And what if they really can help us?" A moment's silence fell over the crowd as they absorbed Jake's words. Uncertainty still buzzed in the air, but something deeper began to stir. Could they finally be on the edge of change? One woman stepped forward, her face etched with years of hardship. "If we're going to do this, we need to ask the tough questions," she said softly. "What safeguards can we put in place to ensure our community remains a priority?" Mitchell nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. We want to put those safeguards in place right from the start. Let us work together to protect what makes this place special." Just like that, a whisper of courage wove its way through the crowd. Fueled by uncertainty but electrified by possibility, they found themselves sharing ideas, dreams, a bit of laughter. To witness the unity growing in the small town felt like seeing dawn's light break after a long, dark night. Jake watched as shared connections formed, hearts began to open, and the sound of hope slowly drowned out skepticism. But with it came the urgent question, would this hope be enough? As the sky grew darker, Jake felt the weight of what might come next. They had taken a gamble, leaving behind despair in search of a tomorrow that could shine brighter. But maybe, just maybe, they were stepping into the light. Yet unknown dangers lingered just beyond the horizon. Would Mitchell truly lead them toward salvation, or was there more to his intentions than met the eye? A shiver ran down Jake's spine as he pondered the gamble they had just made. In that moment, he realized they had awoken not only their community's spirit but also their fears. Hope was a fragile thing. Would the winds of change strengthen it, or would they bury it once more? The air was thick with unspoken questions as the crowd began to disperse, lingering uncertainty hanging like fog. Jake stood rooted in place, watching the townsfolk drift into small clusters. Conversations sparked like fireworks, some voices animated, others still threaded with doubt. He searched for Lily amidst the adults who towered over her. She remained close, her small hand clutching his. "Daddy, are they really going to help us?" Her eyes mirrored the worry he felt inside. "It's a start, sweetheart. A step we haven't taken before," Jake replied, forcing a smile. He wanted to believe, but the shadows that cast doubt over his heart remained murky. As the sun set, casting vibrant hues of orange and purple across the sky, the warmth filled Jake with a flicker of reassurance. Yet, deep down, he knew this newfound energy could not last without solid ground. A few town members remained, their faith visibly wavering. Caleb, still crossing his arms and frowning, caught Jake's eye. "You read it right, Jake. This guy could be trouble. You can't just shake hands and trust blindly." "I hear you, Caleb. But isn't it worth a discussion? Wouldn't you want to share your concerns?" Jake countered, standing taller now. Caleb shifted, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "I want what's best for our people. But I'm tired of empty promises." "Hear me out," Jake urged. "We'll take charge of this. If they overstep, we push back." One by one, people began to nod. He wasn't asking them to be naive, he was inviting them to be vigilant together. As night descended, flickering porch lights illuminated each step they took back into their homes, blending shadows with a spark of hope. People were discovering new resolve as they whispered to one another about their dreams and the realities they faced. Days flowed into weeks as plans for the meeting materialized. Tension ebbed slowly, but the scent of change filled the air around the town. Flyers posted on telegraph poles called for community members to bring their ideas. The small-town gathering hall buzzed with excitement, and some even laughed about how the world had nearly run them down, yet, even with all the enthusiasm floating around, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of unease. What were they actually building? With every meeting, every discussion about dreams, there was an underlying tone that felt like they were dancing on a tightrope. Their dreams were fragile, easily swept away in a wildfire of betrayal. One gray afternoon, as Jake strolled through town, he caught sight of Mitchell. The stranger was deep in conversation with someone Jake recognized, a former business owner who had lost everything. A chill prickled at the back of his neck. Was this just a social call, or was Mitchell gathering information? Jake approached cautiously, ears keen, heart racing. "Everything good?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Mitchell turned, his smile sharp and a little too practiced. "Just getting to know the folks. It helps to understand their stories, you know. Empathy builds trust." "Yeah, well," Jake began, then hesitated. Was his skepticism warranted, or was he just being possessive over the town that had raised him? "Trust, Jake, is a two-way street," Mitchell added, tilting his head slightly. "But I'm glad to see you're looking out for your community. Shows you care." Jake nodded, but unease brewed. He couldn't shake the feeling that behind the charm, there was something deeper lurking, waiting to emerge. As the days passed and the meeting approached, Jake felt the collective heartbeat of the town pouring into his own. They were on the edge of becoming something remarkable, a community that fought for itself. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, he whispered, "No matter what, we're in this together." But could the same be said about Mitchell? Would Jake's instincts about him prove true? The uncertainty loomed heavily, and Jake suddenly realized that as they approached this new dawn, the biggest challenge might not be from outside forces but from within. The sun finally broke through the overcast skies the morning of the meeting, as though it too sensed the anticipation hanging in the air. Jake could feel it, the unshakable undercurrent of hope and anxiety spiraling among the townsfolk. He pulled on a clean shirt and squared his shoulders, looking in the mirror. The reflection staring back at him displayed not just a worried father but a man determined to protect his community. The gathering hall was already buzzing by the time he arrived. People filled every available seat, and the laughter mingled with the sound of shuffling papers and low conversations. Jake smiled at familiar faces, grateful for the camaraderie. Lily bounced beside him, her eyes shining bright, taking in the scene like it was a carnival. "Do you think I can go up there and talk about my idea?" she asked, pointing to the makeshift podium set up at the front. "Absolutely. If it feels right, you should," Jake encouraged, ruffling her hair. "Your voice matters." As the room grew quiet, Caleb stepped up to the front. Jake felt his tension curl tighter, like a coiled spring. Caleb had been at the heart of each discussion, a steadfast guardian against any potential threats. "Thank you, everyone, for being here today," Caleb began, his voice strong. "We're standing at a crossroads. Mitchell has made some solid promises, and it's up to us to decide if we think he will deliver or if we need to stand firm and protect what we have." The crowd murmured their agreement, nodding among themselves. Jake glanced at Lily, who stood at her tiptoes, eager to get her turn. Caleb motioned toward Jake. "And to lead off today, I'd like to invite Jake to share his thoughts." A wave of nerves crashed over Jake. All eyes turned to him, and the laughter in the room faded. He stepped forward, heart pounding in rhythm with the crowd's anticipation. "Thanks, Caleb," Jake began, the weight of the moment anchoring him. "I know things have been tough for all of us. We have dreams that sometimes feel out of reach. But I believe, together, we can carve out a path. We're planting seeds now." He spoke passionately, pouring out hopes for better days, for renewed faith in each other. Each word felt like a stitch weaving the town tighter together. Soon, the crowd was nodding and murmuring support, and he could feel their energy push him forward. "And we deserve to ask questions," he continued, "even of those who come to help us. But we can't give away our power without knowing who we're really dealing with. As his words settled over the room, an unexpected shift occurred. A hand shot up from the crowd. It was Mitchell. "Jake, you make a good point about asking questions. But we also need to be ready to embrace the fear that comes when things are unknown. We can't let our past dictate our future. Trust isn't just electric, it's built on actions too." Jake felt a knot twist in his stomach. Was Mitchell trying to take control of the narrative? He could sense the growing tension, like a crack in a dam about to burst. But instead, he steadied himself. "Trust doesn't come easy, especially not for those who have lost," Jake said, locking eyes with Mitchell. "But it's a two-way street, remember?" Lily tugged on Jake's shirt. "Daddy, can I go up now?" she asked, her voice sweet but insistent. "Sure, sweetheart." He stepped aside, both relieved and proud. The moment felt pivotal. Lily approached the podium, her tiny hands gripping it firmly. "Hi everyone. I have an idea about how we can help each other." The crowd leaned in, captivated by this little girl who dared to speak her dreams aloud. Jake watched her, heart swelling. But as she spoke, he caught the glint of something cold in Mitchell's eyes, a glance shared with someone in the back of the room. The unease gnawed at Jake. What secrets were nestled among their midst? Just then, a sudden commotion broke out at the door, a figure pushing in. The atmosphere shifted. Jake's heart raced as he turned to see who had entered their greatest fears and uncertainties crashing to the forefront, ready to challenge everything. "Who's here to speak now?" he thought. The ground under him felt unsteady. And then, louder than any voice in the room, he felt it, the weight of questions closing in. What could this new arrival mean for his town and their fragile hope? The crowd fell silent, eyes darting between the newcomer and the small girl at the podium. Jake's heart raced faster, a mix of fear and curiosity. The figure stepped forward, silhouetted against the bright lights of the hall. As the person emerged from the shadows, gasps rippled through the audience that it was a woman Jake had only seen in passing. Emily, the town journalist, known for her sharp articles and keen insights. But today, her expression bore a storm of emotions. Confident but visibly shaken, she strode forward with purpose. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "I need to interrupt. There is something important happening outside. Something you all need to know." Jake's stomach dropped. He looked to Lily, who was still speaking, oblivious to the gravity of the situation. He should have felt proud of her bravery, but now, a sense of impending doom loomed over him. "Emily," Jake called, stepping closer, "What's going on?" "This isn't just about promises or trust," she replied, her eyes scanning the room, urgent and wild. "I just got a tip about meetings happening outside of town. People are discussing plans that could change everything, plans that involve Mitchell." The crowd buzzed with confusion and concern. Caleb moved forward, visibly rattled. "What kind of plans?" "Plans that don't just threaten our homes, but our very way of life," Emily continued. "I saw group signs were being exchanged, and not just between locals. They were discussing deals that could take away everything we've built here." Jake's mind raced. He felt a chill grip his heart. What if Mitchell was more than he appeared? What if he was sowing distrust only to rip everything apart from the inside? Suddenly, Lily's voice piped up, cutting through the murmurs. "But we can fight together, right? Like in the stories?" Her innocence hung in the air, a small light shining amidst the growing uncertainty. Jake knelt beside her, squeezing her hand tightly. "Of course we can, sweetheart. But first, we need to hear more from Emily." She stood firm, her nerves steadying. "It's crucial to know what this means. Trust can't be blind, and we're at a tipping point. We can either be proactive or reactive, and the choice is no longer just ours to make." A collective gasp swept through the audience. Some folks exchanged glances, others shook their heads, unsure. They were betting on something so much bigger than themselves now. But who can we trust? A voice called from the back, echoing the question that hung like a heavy mist over the room. Jake felt the weight of every gaze upon him. This was not just about Mitchell or Emily's warning, it was about the essence of their community, the threads holding them together. He knew they needed a moment to regroup and figure out their next steps. "Let us hear what Emily has to say," he urged the crowd, looking for buy-in. "But we need to remain as one. If we want to face this together, we need to put our fears aside and listen." Lily tugged at his sleeve, her small frame steady as she whispered, "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" He smiled, though uncertainty gnawed at him. "Yes, honey. We'll make sure of it." As Emily began to share details about what she had witnessed, Jake's resolve hardened. They would stand together. They had to. But as the layers of deceit started to unravel, the shadows of betrayal crept closer, and deep down, Jake felt a realization creeping in. Could there be someone within their ranks who was playing both sides? As the tension mounted with each revelation, a thought struck him: could they truly trust anyone in this fight for their community? Outside, clouds rolled back into the sky, casting a shadow over the gathering hall. The sun dimmed, amplifying the uncertainty that lurked just beyond their fragile hope. Would they uncover the truth before it was too late? Emily took a deep breath, the weight of the room pressing down on her. She needed to be the voice that cut through the fog of confusion. "Listen," she began, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. "What I saw was a meeting of several key figures. They were talking about land deals, some involving people who don't live here. They see our community as a target, a treasure chest to be raided." Jake's heart thudded. Land deals? His thoughts flicked to their home, the family gatherings, the laughter that filled each corner. The idea that outsiders could threaten this made his fists clench. Caleb interjected again, anger flashing across his face. "And what exactly does Mitchell have to do with this? He's our mayor, he's the one we trusted." "That's the problem," Emily replied, frowning. "I don't know who's pulling the strings. But Mitchell was part of those conversations. That's all I know." A rumble of chatter erupted, voices rising and falling with uncertainty. Some people shook their heads, eyes wide with panic. Others looked to their neighbors, searching for solidarity among the worried faces. Jake glanced at Lily, whose small fingers gripped his hand tightly. "Lily," he said softly, kneeling before her. "Stay close to me, okay?" She nodded but kept her gaze fixed on Emily, absorbing every word. "But what do we do?" Someone shouted from the back, desperation tinging their voice. "What can we actually do?" Emily stepped back slightly, her voice rising above the noise, anchoring them. "At this point, it's about gathering information. We need to understand who we're up against and what their plans are. We can't stand idle, we need to act." Jake straightened, a sense of purpose igniting inside him. "I say we form a group. We can organize teams to gather information and find out what's really going on." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, the energy shifting towards action, a flicker of hope amid the storm. Lily smiled faintly, staring wide-eyed at her father. "Yeah, we can be like heroes, right, Dad?" "Yes, exactly," he responded, a swell of pride mixing with worry. "But we need to be smart about this." Behind him, Emily nodded, her expression softening. "We need to use our resources wisely. There are people in this town who know more than they're letting on. Let us not forget to reach out for help. We need to connect with the others." As the crowd began to rally, voices growing steadier with determination, Jake felt that surge of anxiety ebb away. He could sense their collective resolve. They had faced down problems before. This one felt different, like it had roots deep below the surface, unseen yet powerful. Suddenly, a loud crash broke through the tense atmosphere as the doors of the hall flung open. A group of men stood silhouetted at the entrance, their faces grim and intent. The moment felt suspended in time. "Who are you?" Jake demanded, stepping forward protectively in front of Lily. The crowd fell silent once again, all eyes on these intruders. One of the men stepped into the light, his voice dripping with authority. We're here to talk about Mitchell and the future of your town. Jake's pulse quickened. Fear mingled with instinct as he scanned the newcomers, the air thickening with tension. What did they want? Were they allies or threats? Deep down, he knew this wouldn't end well, but he also sensed it was only the beginning of something much larger. The question loomed in the air: would they be prepared for the truth that was about to unfold? As the men advanced into the room, the uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Jake remained tense, muscles coiled like a spring, ready to act. From his position in front of Lily, he could hear her shallow breaths, the way she leaned against him, seeking comfort. Your mayor has been making deals, the man continued, his gaze cold and calculating. Deals that could change your town forever and not for the better. A murmur of concern rippled through the crowd. Emily's expression hardened, her resolve unwavering. And why should we believe you? She shot back. What is your agenda in all this? The man paused, contemplating her question. I'm here to offer you a choice. A way to protect your town and perhaps turn things to your advantage. Jake couldn't help but interrupt. What do you know about protecting our town? Who are you? The man raised an eyebrow, visibly unfazed by Jake's intensity. My name is Victor. I've been tracking the land deals for months. You may think your mayor supports you, but he has other interests. It's up to you how this unfolds, but I can help you see the bigger picture. The crowd grew restless, conflicting emotions pulling them in different directions. Caleb stood up, his voice shaking with anger. If you're really on our side, prove it. What do you know? Who else is involved? Victor waved a hand for silence, then slowly drew an envelope from his jacket. I've gathered evidence, documents, names, connections. I can show you how deep this goes. But to do that, you must decide whether you want to work with me. You need to be ready to fight to keep your home. When he opened the envelope, the smell of ink and paper filled the room. The tension heightened as he began to pass sheets to those nearest to him. Faces shifted from confusion to determination as they caught glimpses of the contents. Jake took a step closer, scanning the papers Victor handed to Emily. She glanced at him, eyes wide. These are contracts, laws, it's all here, she breathed, disbelief mingling with urgency. Exactly, Victor replied, leaning forward slightly, and it goes from Mitchell to developers who don't care about your homes or your lives. They want to push you out and turn this place into a money-making machine. Lily squeezed Jake's hand tighter, seeking reassurance. He looked down at her, fighting the rising uncertainty within himself. Did they dare confront the mayor? Did they trust this stranger? Okay, Jake said, surprising even himself with his resolve. We listen. But if you try to deceive us, I understand, Victor answered coolly. You need to be vigilant. Trust doesn't come easy, but neither does fighting for what you love. Emily rallied the room once more, her voice steady against the tide of emotions. Let us listen. We need all the information we can get, and if we don't act now, we lose everything we cherish. With each word, a fire ignited within the crowd again. The energy shifted, a collective sense of purpose taking hold. But beneath that triumph, something gnawed at Jake. He felt like they were stepping into uncharted territory, one that could lead to deeper dangers. As the meeting continued, Victor laid out the details, the shadows of uncertainty creeping closer. Jake's instincts urged him to question everything, while a part of him fought against that doubt. But there was one lingering thought that pressed heavily, just out of reach. What sacrifices would they face as the truth unfolded? What they were willing to fight for might demand more than they ever anticipated. As the last of the papers were distributed, Lily whispered, Dad, what if he's right? What if they take our home? Jake's heart sank, his voice faltering as he replied, then we fight with everything we have. But the weight of his answer hung in the air, echoing a question that resonated deeply within them all: how far were they willing to go to protect their home? As the sun rose over Maplewood, casting a warm golden hue across the town. Jake Thompson stood before the hum of voices in the gathering hall, feeling the weight of the moment. He glanced around, seeing familiar faces, his neighbors, friends, all gathered here with a shared purpose. Fear and hope intertwined within their hearts. They were ready for a showdown against the encroaching threat to their homes. The fight was no longer abstract, it had become intensely personal. Victor's words hung in the air, a call to arms. Jake stepped forward, clutching the counterfeited contracts in shaky hands as murmurs spread like wildfire through the crowd. He steadied himself and spoke, his voice tinged with urgency. We now know what's at stake. This isn't just about jobs or a factory anymore. This is about our entire way of life. Caleb nodded beside him, his earlier skepticism fading to an unwavering resolve. Tycoon after tycoon has tried to bully us into submission. This time, we fight back, whatever it takes. The crowd erupted into cheers, their fears transformed into anger and defiance. In those chaotic moments, Lily stood beside Jake, her little hand firmly in his. Daddy, are we going to be okay? Her innocent question tugged deeply at his heart, and he bent down to meet her gaze. With your bravery and this community by our side? Absolutely. He straightened, feeling invigorated by her faith. As they began forming action groups, Mitchell entered, walking straight through the gaping crowd, tension coiling around him like a tightening rope. Gasps filled the air. Jake's heart raced. He couldn't trust that man. You can't just come back here now, Mitchell, Jake called out, his voice firm. Not after everything we've uncovered. What are your intentions? Mitchell held up his hands defensively. I'm here to clarify. You've been misinformed. I've only sought partnerships that benefit our people. But his words fell flat against the cold stares. Your word was a facade, Mitchell. You've been making deals behind our backs, a voice rang out from the crowd. The murmurs shifted to fiery shouts, a wave of resentment crashing against Mitchell's calm exterior. Let us not jump to conclusions, he said, but in doing so, he only fueled the flames. We've seen too much, another town member yelled. We won't let you trample our hopes. The crowd surged closer, voices rising in unison, filled with determination. In that electric atmosphere, Jake felt like a conductor to an orchestra of emotion, fierce resolve played through them. We will not be cowed. We demand transparency, and we demand action. He took a deep breath, glancing at Lily, who had stepped forward beside him, her handmade sign still clutched in tiny fingers. Daddy, can I say something? She piped up, her small voice rising above the fray. We can all be brave. We can fight for each other and make sure everyone gets to keep their home. A hush fell over the crowd, and Jake felt a surge of pride as Lily's innocent yet powerful words resonated deep within them. With her at his side, a renewed sense of unity solidified. Together, we are stronger than any deal made in smoke-filled rooms, Jake declared, his heart swelling as Lily squeezed his hand. Mitchell glared, realization dawning upon him that he had underestimated the tenacity of this tight-knit community. So, you all want to go to war? He asked, skepticism dripping from his voice. Not war, Mitchell, unity, Jake replied, his voice clear and bold. We'll seek the truth, uncover the lies, and we will resist. Together. With newfound energy pulsing through them, people began to clamor with ideas, forming plans to raise awareness, educate others, and establish a town forum to share their findings. Even Emily stepped forward, calling for a community meeting that would lay all the cards on the table. As preparations launched, Jake felt the tide turn, the air thick with anticipation. They emerged from the shadows of despair and reclaimed their identities as defenders of their town. Days turned to weeks. The scent of hope mingled with the crisp autumn air as the town rallied around each other, sharing resources and information. Every group meeting felt like pulling together distant puzzle pieces, each conversation a thread stitching their community even tighter. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Tensions rose when minor skirmishes with outside interests sparked up, sometimes it took every ounce of restraint not to crumble under pressure. But Jake knew they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. They were fighting for future generations, for families like his, for Lily, for the laughter that still rang through the streets of Maplewood that in the end, the town united. They found their voices and harnessed their strength, exposing the deals that threatened their lives. Their determination echoed through the community and drew support from those who knew they had to stand against unchecked greed. The story of Maplewood became one of resilience and unity, a testament to the strength of human determination when wrapped in love. As Jake held Lily against his side, watching the town come to life with spirit again, he felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had prevailed, sending a powerful message, igniting hope in the hearts of every single person, including his own, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, the last embers of day turned to starlight, Jake understood they weren't just keeping their homes, they were building a future infused with truly strong foundations. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, he whispered, "No matter what happens, we are a family, and we are always stronger together." The soft sound of her breath was a lullaby, a reminder of everything worth fighting for. Now that the story has come to an inspiring conclusion, it's your turn to make a difference. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Hit that like button immediately to feed the algorithm and support us in the best way possible. Comment below your feelings about this transformation, we want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful journey. Let's inspire even more hearts together.